F2004, Rapid Application Development, in the fall 2016 semester at Georgian, and it's week 4, part 1 of our broadcast. Today we're talking about a couple things. The first thing I want to conquer with you guys is assignment 2, right? So I want to talk about assignment 2 in detail, maybe make a small recording of that, put it up, and then go to the next piece. So that way you can have that first recording as just about assignment 2, right? I find that's a little better than swimming through about an hour to get to assignment 2 or something like that. So let's take a look. I've got assignment 2. It should be available to you now up on Blackboard, right? If you want to look at the details along with me. I'll talk about what I'm looking for. All right, so when is it due? This thing is due Friday, October 14th, so you have a couple of weeks. All right, it's worth 10%. Here's what I'm going to do next week with you guys. There's going to be a lab where I'm going to check you. And if you're not done, you're going to lose 2% of your final mark, right? So I'm going to do a progress report next week. Depend on it. It's going to happen. 100% it's going to happen. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to go around like we did before, and I'm going to go check an X. And next week, if it's an X, it's going to be 2% loss. You're going to get a 0 on your lab, right? If you do it, then it's worth 2%. So you actually get a bonus if you think about it on your assignment. So instead of this being 10, it'll be 12, right? Why am I doing this? Because I want you to get the flow of when you get an assignment, I want you to do a progress report. In real life, if I give you an assignment, if you were my employee, and if I gave you a project to work on, and if I didn't check for you, like I didn't check on you at all for 2 weeks, something's wrong with me. That's reality, right? I got to check to see if you're doing well. The best managers, they always check to see if they're, just do a kind of a sanity check is what I like to call, and see if if the employee is on track, right? So like I said, I'm running this like as a company, right? So I'm gonna kind of check on you next week and see if you're okay. It's worth 2% of your final mark, right? I kind of said it a couple times just so you guys all have it recorded. If you want to watch live, you can. So that's number 1. Let's talk about what's going to be required for next week. So, and we'll talk about that too. So first of all, what's the project? So you're going to create a project that determines the total amount due for the purchase of a vehicle based on accessories and options selected and a trade-in value, if any. All right, so it's going to be, you're going to have a vehicle name, a vehicle cost, and what you're going to be doing is it's going to calculate some stuff, right? That's what it's going to be doing. The price of the car will be set by the user. So for example, let's say if the price of the car is 30 grand, you're going to put in $30,000, right? Here are some options. And by the way, these are the minimum options that you could select or add in to make it interesting. You can add additional options other than these, right? For bonus marks. And again, please let me know, even for assignment 1, if you've added any bonus material, when you do your submission on Blackboard, there's an area that you can comment. Please put in the comments as an example. Here are bonuses. Put them in bullet form. Bop, bop, bop. These 4 things. So I don't have to search around your app to find the bonuses so I can give you extra marks, okay? If I got to search hard, I may miss it, right? So please don't do that. I want to be able to give you credit where credit is due. Make it easy for me, for the marker, right? I don't have a TA. It's just me, right? Okay. So I got stereo system, leather interior, computer navigation. So what happens is as I select my items, extra features, it adds on to the price. That's the idea here, okay? Now, can we picture some kind of controls to help us do this, right? This is a problem. Here's the reality that think of it this way, the customer has asked you to create this application. What controls can I make to give me the ability to select different options that add on to my price? You can think of many, many controls to do the same thing. An example of would be check boxes. So if I check the checkbox, it adds on to my price. That's the simplest one. You could also make a checked list. That's a different kind of control, right? Which allows me to have a list, and then I can check the list, and if I can check multiple ones, I can do that too. Radio buttons would not work in most cases, unless there's a either or kind of thing. For example, stereo system, leather interior, computer navigation, standard or pluralized, that we got to talk about that, custom detailing, and all that kind of stuff. Some of these are related, so you can choose either or, and some of them are, you can choose all of them, right? These are the bare minimum that I'm looking for. Make it realistic. Model yourself after an existing car company. Example, if you're, I don't know, a BMW lover, go and look up on BMW's site and see what all the kind of options they have. Hey, there are thousands of options for some of these cars, especially if you're a GM lover. Oh my God, GM and Ford, you can make like, I don't know how many different kinds of cars if you really think about it, if you could kind of build your own vehicle. So I want you to think about that as the approach. There's also going to be a menu component, right? We talked about other components, but there's going to be a menu that you're going to be required to do to practice menus. Why? Because on the exam, there's going to be checkboxes, probably some kind of radio buttons, some kind of input boxes, some kind of labels, some kind of menus. All the stuff that I'm getting you to do with your assignments are going to be on the exam, right? So if you haven't practiced these things, and that's what these assignments are for, you have a couple weeks to practice, and then you can do it on your own. Then in real life, in kind of real time, I test. It tells you in here what to put in. For example, add text boxes and set the trade-in allowance text property to 0, and there's on and on. It tells you kind of directions on how to. It just tells you, hey, I want you to put a group box here, and inside the group box, the text property should be additional items, right? Again, these are minimum requirements. And down on the bottom here, I'm just going to go down to give you a sample. I've kind of produced a sample idea of what you could do. Bare minimum. This is bare minimum stuff, okay? Nothing fancy. Base price, additional options. You can see that I've used checkboxes here, and some of them are radio buttons. So a combination of both, right? What if you want to be fancy? I've just shown you multiple forms. Why couldn't you break this thing off into multiple forms? This week and this week, things we're going to talk about this week, you can add in here to make it more interesting for yourself and get more marks, right? More you put into it, the better it is. And you'll also create problems for yourself. You will, because you're going to add some stuff in I didn't ask for. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to sit there and go, oh, well, how do I do the thing that I'm thinking about doing? Obviously, the sales tax, 13%. You could change this, whatever, if you wanted to try different numbers here as well. This is more realistic. Trade-in allowance, you can put in a number there if you want to. Like, for example, you want to put in the trade-in allowances. If you have a trade-in, you can put in a trade-in allowance of $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000. But the amount due is going to take all of this into account, subtract the trade-in allowance, and give you the total. All right? When I click the calculate button, that's what this is going to do. Also, if I click the clear button, it's going to clear everything and reset the form back to its original state. Okay? If I press the exit button, it'll exit the application. Very easy. Again, nothing outside of what we've talked about already, right? But another assignment to practice some similar controls and functionality, right? Another go at it is what I'm giving you, right? So that way you have some an opportunity to practice this stuff. Things that I've included that why is this giving me an error? That you're going to see in every one of them is solution structure. I've asked you to name the form a certain way, sharp auto form. A private class member variables a certain way, and so on. What the control types are going to be used. Those things I'm going to be looking at. That's nothing new. Internal documentation, again, nothing new. And in fact, if anything, this is not a complex or difficult assignment. It's very straightforward what I'm asking for. But there's plenty of opportunities for bonus, tons. Like I can see, if it was me, I could see myself putting additional things. For example, what if I had an additional form in here before I got to this final form? Think about this as the final form. I have an additional form that says, here's all my options. All these options I want. I want interior, leather, interior, all those things on one form. I got that, right? I can also choose things like color. Maybe I didn't ask you for colors or paint styles or anything like that. You can all add that in. Hey, what if I wanted to add images of the cars, right? So if I click on the car, if I want it a different color, bam, it switches the images to the other color. Like all that additional functionality that you can think about adding in. You're going to say, well, Tom, I don't have time to do this kind of stuff. It's okay. Do the bare minimum then, right? At least you could get the basic input and output. But to challenge yourself, if you want to really challenge yourself to get extra bonus marks, or let's say, for example, you handed in assignment 1 and you really weren't happy with assignment 1 and you want to make up some marks for assignment 2, I'll do that. I'll take your assignment 2 and I'll take your bonus, all the extra bonus things into account, and I'll give you bonus marks. And chances are for each feature, I'm not going to give you less than 1 or 2 marks, right? And up to 4 marks, depending on how crazy the features are that you added in. Like if you add something in, like I'm truly making a BMW builder, and I've looked at the website and everything that's on BMW, I made it in my app. Okay, that's crazy, right? I'll see what I can do. There's only so many bonus marks I can give you, but I'm willing to really stretch here to give you as many as you whatever you put into it. I'm gonna kind of give back to you. Other things, splash screens. things like finishing screens, the ability for you to pay, to kind of order the car, all that kind of stuff. Think about all the other things that you can add in here if you were going to make this kind of application. So what I'm saying is push yourself if you can. It'll give you a great opportunity to fail, which is what no, I'm serious, which is part of what we do, as developers, right? And I know I keep saying that, and I don't mean fail the course. I'm talking about, or fail the assignment. I'm saying fail and learn, and that way, that's how we learn the best, by failure, right? And I know it's kind of a common theme. If you talk to some other developers, they're like, I failed a lot and I learned, and because I had to fail and look it up on Google and do all this kind of stuff, I got better and better at it because I kept practicing. So think about this as an opportunity for you to practice basics. That's what we're doing here with these form stuff. Now, if you're going to move from this course to COMP1007, which is the next course in line with C#, right, as an example, right? If you knew all of this stuff firmly, COMP1007 for you would be like a piece of cake, right? Because the next course is based on a lot of the stuff, the same or similar controls that we do in this course, right? So you're learning a bit of C#, we're reviewing those kind of things, and then you're off to the races with the next one. Okay, so submitting your work. Again, I do need a zip archive of your project files on Blackboard and a link to your project files on GitHub. All right, so again, there is a GitHub component. Please don't forget that. If all you do is use GitHub as a backup, God forbid, right? That would mean that you're just going to get 2 marks. If you use GitHub throughout your development, which is I recommend, you're going to get your full 4 marks for this one. Again, not a lot of marks in terms of points here. It's out of 32, and that's why it's only worth 10%. So nothing that's great. I usually do 2 to 3 to 1, something like that. If it's like 30 points, it's worth probably around 10, maybe 12 or 15% max, right? Once I go higher in terms of points, it means there's more things I'm looking at, and the more things I look at means I'm going to probably give you a higher. It's going to be a more difficult, a more challenging assignment to do. This is not a challenging assignment to do in any way. Okay. In fact, if anything, the first one might be a little bit even tougher than this one. Questions around this one? Okay. Again, do a couple weeks from now. Next week, I'm going to check you, right? So please be ready. Don't be surprised if I come around and go, you didn't have it done? No? Okay, 0.
Define what you're checking for.
That's perfect. I love it. No. So here's what I want to see from next week, okay? So that's a good thing. Your UI with no functionality should be done, okay? Come on, let's figure this out. You have a week to put your UI together. So your user interface, and that means if you're using multiple forms, try and get as many of those forms done as possible. If I see one complete form that has no functionality, 0, it doesn't do anything. It just, the complete UI is done. Remember I talked about this? Do your UI first, get it the way you want to look at, because there's all this, the style effect, how you want it to look and so on. Get that done, and then add the functionality later. Don't add functionality as you go, because if you do that, sometimes actually it can cause you to do a lot of rework, right? Do your UI. Make sure you have everything in place the way you think you're going to have it, and then add functionality afterwards. I know it's kind of contra to the way we think about it as developers, because we kind of code as you go, a lot of us, right? I'm going to build it as I go, and then, oh man, I got to recode this part. I got to back up that step. I got to remove this one, didn't work. I want to put this other one in there. Sometimes we do it that way too, but I recommend build your UI for next week and have that done. Then, if I see that and your UI is done, check, right? Okay, how do I give you 1 mark instead of 2 marks? Because there might be some cases where your UI is there, but it's a piece of crap. How about that? That would be where I only give you 1 mark out of 2. What do I mean by that? I mean, I'm not looking for artwork here. Okay, I'm not sitting there going like, you know what? I really like the composition of your UI, right? I like the way you balance the white space, and it's not about that. Okay, guys, right? It's about, hey, can I read the controls? All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right, is there contrast? Does your button actually say some things that make sense, right? In the buttons, like it doesn't just say button 1. Okay, that would be a place where I would say, okay, you only get 1 mark out of 2 here because your UI is not complete, right, or incorrect. Or is there some kind of alignment in the UI? Do the buttons line up? I'm talking about real basics here, guys, right? Are there spelling errors all over the place on your UI? Like, is the buttons all labeled wrong or whatever? Or if the controls are labeled wrong, or if you're missing something, right? Those kind of things. Those are areas that are easy for me to say, well, it's 1 out of 2, right? It's either, I'm only going to give you 3, there's 3 possibilities. Either you've completed your UI, you're going to get 2 marks. You've done part of your UI, but it's not complete, you're going to get 1 mark. And if you've done nothing, you get 0, right? Or if it's close to nothing, you'll get 0. So depending on where on that spectrum you lie, It'll be 0, 1, or 2. There won't be a 1.5 or a 0.5. I'm not going to give you, that kind of discretion. It's either you've done it pretty much or you haven't. This is easy marks for me, right? It's pushing you to also get your assignment started. That's a really good thing. So you're kind of rolling with this stuff, and I'm paying you for it, 2%, for you just to get your UI done, which is extra. Questions around this thing? For that day, next week, if I come in on Thursday and I ask you, so Gabriel, show me your work, your assignment number 2, and you say, I didn't start it, 0 for that particular lab. For that lab, I'm going to have a lab come up, right? It'll be an extra thing on Blackboard, and for that lab, you'll get 0, right? That's all it means. So it's not going to kill your mark, but now your mark's of 98 instead of 100. That's all. Okay. No, not for your, but you can still hand it in, and some people might say, well, okay, Tom, but what if I hand it in and get all these bonuses, and that's why I'm really working hard. I don't know, whatever story you're going to give me, and that's why I'm going to get these bonuses, and so I didn't get it done on time. It's up to you how you manage your time, but I'm trying to encourage you to do things regularly and provide input to me on a regular basis, and that's why I'm paying you 2%. And in real life, again, you're going to have a manager that checks on you regularly, and there's also going to be other key performance indicators, KPIs, that they're going to check, and one of them is rework. Okay, I can't check rework. Can't do that, right? Because I don't know how often you're going to go and change things up or whatever. I can't check for that. I don't have we're not kind of geared up for that in this particular example. There's other ways of checking rework, but rework is the #1 thing that we check as developers, right? Why? Because if I get you to code something and you show me a piece of code and I got to go do a code review with you and you're like, and it's really bad, and it doesn't work, and if I keep doing that over and over with you when you're in the real world, kind of thing, that means, and I'm a senior developer, if I'm doing that with you over and over again, then why do I need you? I don't, right? If I'm practically recoding for you, right? I don't want to. You should be able to produce something that works and do it right the first time. That whole mentality of do it right the first time, it's an old kind of system of that we think about, but it kind of works for coding as well. What do I mean by that? Think about you and I are going to make I know I don't want to go into too much analogies here, but for people who need them, I'll say it. You and I are going to make a broadsword. All right? You ever make a broadsword before? Anybody? Yeah, some people made broadswords. All right, I'm envious, right? You need materials to make a broadsword, right? What if you failed at that? You've got all your materials together. How long did it take you to make that broadsword? How long did it take? Seriously, if you made one. How long? 200 hours to make that broadsword. What if you missed a step? Like, for example, on the cooling phase, or the way you pounded it on the anvil, let's say, or whatever. Could that mess up your broadsword? Could it make it more brittle, less sharp? Those kind of things. It's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong when you're in the process of making a broadsword. A broadsword is old technology we're talking about here, and you might think, well, okay, okay, it's not what I do. I'm not a smith, right? A weaponsmith or whatever. At the end of the day, it's the same thing that we're doing here. We're making broadswords, people. All right, truly. And if you go and you mess up, imagine if I have to start over, especially if you have to start your application over and over again. You have to redo some part of your broadsword making. It can be very costly to the company, right? So you don't want to cost the company that you work for any money. You want to produce money for them. You want to be a producer. You don't want to be a cost. People that are costs, usually, they go through the probationary period and then see you later. Okay, but we don't want to talk doom and gloom. I'm talking about bonus marks, right? That's what I want you to produce, more than you can produce. So, do your best to start early and submit often. Okay, and let's come back to this. I'm going to stop this recording this time. It's only for the assignment, and then we'll come back and I'll start in on the things we're going to be talking about today.